Door de jaren heen heeft Groningen heel wat oproeikraaiers gekend. Veel studenten riepen of liepen wel eens mee. Wie zijn deze luide mensen? En waarom gaan ze de straat op? Bij ons leer je ze kennen. In aflevering 2, anti-oorlogsactivisme, met Federico en Gonzalo.
This girl is a really close friend of mine. She is Ukrainian, and I actually went to visit Kiev and Skitnitsa last year, and now she got wrapped up in this entire war. Something that is very sad to say. There were 3 times in that first span of a month when the invasion started that I actually had to say goodbye to my best friend. In the sense that we genuinely just thought she was not gonna make it past that night. And then through her, I sadly lived what people there are living on a daily basis. And no matter how hard or horrible or dehumanizing it may have been for me, I was still a screen away from everything that was happening. So seeing all these horrors really prompted me to say I cannot sit on my ass and do nothing.
These are field pants for combat gear. I've wanted to volunteer to go fight. I actually did volunteer. I had the instructions to go to Ukraine, but it was my family that stopped me. So yeah, they made me promise that I wouldn't go, but I've thought about it every day. I think it was kind of just to do my part, even though it meant a very real risk of dying. It's not something I take lightly in the least, but it's something I was willing to do.
Wat houdt het precies in? Anti-oorlogsactivisme is een sociale beweging die druk uitoefent op een regering om een einde te maken aan een oorlog of conflict. In de 19e eeuw verschenen er verschillende literaire werken over dit onderwerp. En tijdens de Eerste Wereldoorlog ontstond er een artistieke anti-oorlogsbeweging, het Dadaïsme. Een belangrijk Nederlands protest was de februaristaking. De staking was het grootste protest tijdens de Tweede Wereldoorlog. In de jaren 60 waren er enorme protesten in de VS vanwege de Vietnamoorlog. Studentenactivisten speelden een belangrijke rol bij het aanwakkeren van deze massale protesten. Bij iedere oorlog ontstaat er een anti-oorlogsbeweging, zo ook bij de oorlogen in Oekraïne. Sinds Rusland heel Oekraïne binnenviel, zijn er wereldwijd grote demonstraties en activistische bewegingen ontstaan. Zo ook in Groningen.
I'm a very deep believer in democracy. The war in Ukraine is not only about Russia and Ukraine. It's about all democracy against oppression. It's the right of self-determination versus the right of one dictator to just destroy this other country.
So far, I'd say as much as I'm involved in activism, I wouldn't say that I am as much an activist as many other people that I know are. My first protest, I don't know if I would call it a protest per se, but it was a pride parade in Peru. I just left the house and went to protest. So it was the first time in which I managed to take a stand for what I believed in a public area, openly going against my parents' wishes. And I still think that in a way has influenced my desire to become involved here despite potential repercussions. I've talked with my parents recently about, I said that my involvement with the protests in Ukraine is something that I consider very commendable, and I would like to talk more about it, or maybe put it on my LinkedIn or something. And they told me, well, Federico, that's really lovely, but if you're honest with you, you maybe shouldn't. And I even had this sort of discussion with a study advisor here in Groningen. She told me about there was another student who had an interview, and he talked openly about being against, I don't know what kind of war, and then that ended up being negative for his future when looking for jobs. But it's for a good cause, and I think that it's worth doing.
I went to The Hague to the protest. We protested in front of the Russian embassy. We made signs with cardboard boxes and Sharpies. It was pretty amazing to get to scream Russian warship, go fuck yourself, in front of the Russian embassy at The Hague. It was quite an experience. The very next day I went to the protest in Groningen. I helped with security. I was one with the vests and all that stuff. And I was actually really proud to see the square just completely full of people.
I tried to do everything I could from within my reach to improve the protests, making people find out about the WhatsApp groups and attend the places and everything. At first we had one WhatsApp group with 250 people, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and 5, and like at some point I just lost count. So we didn't even know how many people were gonna attend.
Worship, go fuck yourself. We stand together with Ukraine.
The most important reason to protest here for something that's happening seemingly far away is not really to impact the war directly. It really sends a strong message, it raises a lot of awareness, and most importantly, it lets local politicians know that this is a cause that their voters rally behind.
So I think that these kinds of protests, as far away as we might be, they're beneficial. It was like a collective sentiment of the city of Groningen, I would say, that we vehemently oppose against this war and that we demand our legislators and our governors to do more than they were doing. And there's this one phrase that I said in my speech, is that we are far away, but we're not absent.
Living in a functional democracy, the best thing we can do is not really the actions that we can do on ourselves that are like a little bit like grains of sand in the beach, but the most important thing we can do is be activists and make the government act because they have the resources.
You know, if you feel like you're discontent with a social issue and you just stay quiet, then in a way, sadly, you're part of the problem, you know? This isn't supposed to like denounce people who don't do things, but rather is to encourage people who want to do things to like take part. Since everyone is a very different person and we have like very different backgrounds and ways in which we've been raised and abilities and skills and everything, everyone can contribute in a different way. So if you have a set of skills that you believe that can be used for a good cause, then why not use it for activism, you know?